Right, and you're live. Hello, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And we are now about 2 days on from the first day of the Rugby Championship action. Very interesting day, both from a Springbok perspective and All Blacks perspective, for example. Yeah, we're now kind of, I suppose, have an opportunity to look at exactly where we are and what is it that we can take out of these games and what we can maybe expect for next weekend. So now we sort of have a bit of an opportunity to sort of now look at things with a bit of a fresh view and decide whether the hot takes, for example, that we had over the weekend do actually hold fast, or whether we maybe said these things we call things too quickly and stuff. The one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit today is the Springbok game plan and what we saw this weekend and what we might see this coming weekend, as well as sort of what the right sort of way to play is, and also how much of how we play depends on the various players within the system and who's available. So quite a lot to talk about a little bit, and we haven't unfortunately got too many injury updates out of the box out of the Bok camp, because Dion Davids, whilst he did give an update, which has gone up today, it was actually, I think it was recorded yesterday, so it would have been before they would have actually done the medical screening and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit, unfortunately, it's a bit frustrating from that perspective that we don't have sort of any sort of fresh injury news. We did have an article about some of the selections that could be on the cards for this weekend, and so we can talk about that a little bit about that. And yeah, but unfortunately, as I said, we can't really sort of talk about from an injury perspective whether there are any injuries. It didn't seem to be, for example, nobody left the field with an injury this weekend, as far as we know. So in theory, it should be a full squad for the coming weekend. But yeah, in terms of the team announcement, that will be tomorrow morning. We will be live at about 9 o'clock in the morning, by the way, 9 a.m. for our reaction show. So set your alarms for the morning, because it should come out just before then. And make sure you don't miss out on the reaction show, which is, as I said, we'll go live at 9 o'clock. And in terms of this weekend, for example, Ian Foster said that all bets are off when it comes to the Boks versus the All Blacks. And yeah, very interesting to see how both teams do approach it. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in the next sort of half an hour. We'll wrap up at about 1:30. If you have any questions or stuff like that, put them in the comments and let's have a chat. So already a couple of people in the comments saying, Zonke is saying, I think they should stick to the boring rugby when they're playing against teams like All Blacks and Ireland. Rue is saying, I think they should start the match with boring rugby to slow down the game, as the All Blacks will come out fast, then switch to running rugby when the game opens up a bit more and catch the All Blacks off. Saying, but it's all down to the day. The players need to read what is happening in front of them and adapt and take the opportunities. They don't need necessarily stick to one style. They can interchange. It makes them less predictable. So the question is, have things changed? Yes, that is a pretty easy answer. Now, you can't read too much into the performance. First of all, it's against a pretty poor Australia side, but and maybe not our first string side, but, and the big but is that for example, you're attacking shape, you're attacking patterns. You don't, for example, play against a bad team or a team that's not playing well, and all of a sudden you can just natively create this brand new game plan and change everything that you're planning on doing, and all of a sudden start running and tries for fun. It doesn't really work like that. So there has to be, a particularly big sort of pattern and stuff like that you've been training, and there's no doubt that pattern has definitely evolved over the last few years, and we're now seeing another step being taken forward. I think if you look at some various analysis videos and stuff like that, you will see how our structure in attack and defense does sort of change, or has changed. Our pattern and our structure from the last World Cup in 2019, and so there definitely has been a sort of a shift to a new sort of structure. And this weekend, I think we saw another step forward in it. And I think that we are playing a much quicker brand of rugby. I think that is quite clear that we are looking to move the ball around a lot more. We obviously still have a largely sort of kicking orientated game, which again, it's such lazy analysis to sit there saying, well, why do we kick? We mustn't play a kicking game. Ireland play a kicking game, France play a kicking game, and the best two teams in the world. If you want to win the World Cup, come in October, you need to kick the ball. That is just a reality. You have to kick the ball. The question is how you kick the ball, how you use it. So, for example, South Africa always use it to for field possession. There's certain positions where South Africa don't want to play the game, and so they use their up and unders and the kicking game to progress down the park. Whether that's pin them back, they then kick it out. We've got an attacking line, for example, but to move the game forward from a territory perspective. Whereas, for example, your New Zealand sides 5-6 years ago were quite happy to be running it out of their own 22, for example, and up there, and often wouldn't go to the boot as much in those sort of situations. But as I said, France kicked the ball a lot, far more than any other team in the world, actually, and Ireland as well have got a very interesting kicking game also to get them into good attacking positions, and then you start seeing sort of the runners with the shoulders and the overlaps and the runarounds and stuff like that. So, the whole sort of, it's a Springbok boring game plan, they just kick. It's lazy analysis, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, it was, I think especially in the British and Irish Lions, where we hadn't played international rugby for 2 years, we were never going to be particularly expansive. We were never going to be able to sort of put all the different facets of a pattern together, and it's going to click in, at the biggest test series we have every 12 years. But last year we definitely saw, I think against France, for example, in particular, in England, we started to see a very sort of a progressive pattern, which has definitely developed over the few years. And I think this last weekend was another step in that direction. The biggest thing is that, it's about adding bows to strings to the bow, isn't it? Sorry, I'm making sure this is okay. This is all working. So we can't, but you can't move away from your DNA, and the Boks DNA is a good pack. You can hate it, you can love it, you can embrace it. Yes, we've got incredibly exciting backline players. We know this. We saw this weekend. We've got Kirk Lawrence, who's in red out form. Andre Esterhuizen was brilliant this weekend. You've got a Damien Willemse. You've got a Cheslin Colby. You've got a Villaluru. You've now got a Monty Liebach in that squad, for example. So they're very exciting X-Factor type players. But it is all based on a good pack, and a good pack performance is always going to be the central aspect to any pattern or any game plan that the Boks do play. We are a set piece driven side. That is reality, And for me, it's a weird thing to hate it, given how much success it's brought us. But some people just want to see, silly offloads and Super Rugby / URC, or even sort of Curry Cup style rugby where you just sort of throw the Hail Mary pass and if it comes off, it looks cool. At the end of the day, this is Test rugby, and you can't make mistakes in Test rugby. Ask Argentina. They made 1 or 2 mistakes on Saturday, and all of a sudden they're about 17 points down within like 12 minutes, something silly. So the margin for error in Test rugby is next to nothing. So yes, there are teams that do play expansive brands of rugby, but watch them and understand when they choose to do that. Ireland, for example, inside their own 22, they'll clear it. They're not running 2-3 man pods and doing the sort of the Johnny Six is not running with 2 forwards neither shoulder looking for options stuff like inside his own 22. They don't do that. They often use James Lowe, for example, and sort of a big boot, and they get themselves out of danger. They get themselves down the park. They don't stuff around in their own 22. And that's a side which a lot of people are saying are playing some of the nicest rugby around. Even France, for example. France kick a hell of a lot. But they can often when they can retain it or when they can bring possession back, that's when they're so quick. But again, they've also, in terms of a forward-oriented game, they've got a monstrous pack which wear down the opposition, suck them in, and then they look for the fringes, and then they up the tempo of the game in the right moments. So every sort of team's going to have their own sort of unique style, and I think we are still very much sort of honing in on what exactly our style is and how we can implement it. I think it's very much a work in progress. Yes, now we need to start sort of putting the finishing touches on it, because we are sitting here, if we were to play in the World Cup final, we've got, 2 more matches in the Rugby Championship, 3 more games, so you've got 5 games, and then you've got Scotland, Tonga, Romania, Ireland in the World Cup, and then you've got quarters, semi-final. And we all know the draw, quarters and semis could be, better opposition than the final is going to be if we get there. So it's now sort of that time where we start putting the finishing touches, but at the same time, you also don't want to sort of show all your cards. We saw that in 2019 when you watch Chasing the Sun and you look at it retrospectively, how we actually developed throughout the tournament. We started adding more and more things as we needed to win, clutch games. And that, I think, will have to be the same thing this weekend, this year. You can't afford to just go and give everything away about how you're planning on playing the game. There has to be a certain amount of things which are sort of kept back or not completely overused and stuff so that people can start learning about it. Because if everybody knows everything about you and you play to that, then you become predictable. And teams that do play to that can be worked out. For example, I think we worked out France last year. We played with a game plan that nullified them, and if it wasn't for a couple of cards, stuff like that, I think we would have won that game. Should have won that game. I think we should have won that game. I look at that game, and in fact, I actually remember being pretty positive afterwards. I was heartbroken we had lost, but we sat there going, you know what? The Springbok management had worked out the France game plan, then worked out how to beat them, and we didn't just quite manage to put it together. But you could see the plan was there, and it was a good plan. And when you sort of see sort of moments like that, for me, that's a positive. What for me is worrying is when you get beaten by a side that clearly have worked you out, you couldn't adapt, and you clearly haven't been able to work them out. That is when it gets worrying. For example, Argentina that first half, they had no attacking shape. Their defensive things were massive issues. So that New Zealand were exploiting that a lot. Australia, for example, you probably look at that Australia side going, well, where are the positives here? We got completely outplayed. And apart from the fact that they tried to go wide quite quickly early on, especially with the set piece stuff like that, to try and beat the Rush defense, what did Australia really do to try and nullify the box? So that's quite a worrying performance. But again, if you're seeing a performance where you're going, well, I can see the vision, I can see what they're trying to do. They haven't been able to get it right on the day, but I can see what they're trying to do. It was a good plan. If it's a plan and it comes down to implementation, that is what you can improve on. If there's no plan and everybody's just dreadful and running around like headless chickens, that's when it's time to panic. And I don't think it's been a while since I think a team has really outclassed us, and where we've looked completely hapless in the game. I think we're not in a bad position. A lot I think arriving this weekend. Springbok public demand results, so they're going to demand the Boks beat the All Blacks this weekend. And I'm sitting thinking, well, why not? And how big of a statement is that to go to New Zealand and beat the All Blacks in New Zealand, in Auckland, in a World Cup year, to hopefully then go on to win the Rugby Championship, and go into the World Cup with a lot of confidence. Because I think a year ago, I don't think too many people were giving the Boks a chance at the World Cup. I think and to be fair, since then, last year we lost to Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and France. We lost to 4 and Wales. We lost to 5 different teams last year. So you shouldn't be favourites in the World Cup yet. But there's definitely been progress. And with that progress, I think now people are literally, I think it's quite simple. I think the top 4 teams in the world are the favourites. Ireland, France, New Zealand, South Africa. I think they're on a different level to the other teams. I think that England could have been on our level had they not. I wouldn't say sacking Eddie Jones would have made them on our level, but I think that they've made coaching decisions rashly, and I think that Borthwick's not going to have enough time to be able to make them genuinely competitive. I don't know what we're going to expect from Australia. The only thing that does favour those sort of sides, same thing as a Wales, who don't even have a squad to pick these days, they're all retired, is the draw favours them. So they've got the best opportunity of being able to make do with what they've got because they've got a very favourable draw. We don't have that draw. Our only easy game is Romania. Then we've got Tonga, who, as we've seen from the Tongan squad, is got a ridiculous squad. They're going to be really tough. And I think that's why this weekend was such a good example of how we can change a few players and still get results. Which is a very important part of winning, World Cups and stuff. So some of the comments Xavier saying, can we see Williams with more minutes? He deserves better. It's difficult, isn't it? He's had a very good season, there's no doubt. But, I don't think Kobus Reinach was bad. I don't think he really grabbed his opportunity there and sort of put himself in the front and said, you should have to be picking me. And I think that Grant Williams had a really exciting cameo off the bench. So, would I start Grant Williams? No, I wouldn't this weekend. If I have to coach from he starts. But I must admit, I'd be very tempted to give him some minutes off the bench and then give him a go against Argentina. He can be a bit of an ace up the sleeve. He's very new to Test rugby. So, for example, if we're chasing a game, Grant Williams can inject that sort of X factor and stuff. We are now, 1.2 points ahead of France in a World Cup semi-final. Is Grant Williams the Scrum-half I want on the field? And my answer is no, he's not. And that's because I think his tactical kicking isn't good enough. We saw that for the Sharks. The kicking game is a bit of an issue. And his game management isn't the same. In that sort of scenario, 10 minutes to go, 2-point advantage over France, World Cup semi-final. If Faf de Klerk is on that field, if Jaden Hendricks is on that field, I'm calm. I'm thinking those are two scrum-halves that can see out a game. They will manage a game. They can control a game. That is why the Boks rate Jaden Hendricks so highly, because he reads and manages the game so well. So yes, he's maybe not as exciting as Grant Williams because he's not making all these amazing breaks and scoring counter-attacking tries, but he reads the game. He understands where, when, how to kick, which sort of, and how to sort of, direct his pack and stuff like that. Make sure, okay, no, I need you to come close. I need you to move there. I need somebody else there because we're going to retain this ball. Now we're going to go to the back line where there's support. And that ability to read the game is what's so important come those sort of big matches where you have to manage things and you have to try and see a game off. Even if you're chasing it to a certain degree, if you're sort of four points behind, okay, so you just need to score a try. Again, those scrum halves and those players who can read the game and say, right, I'm seeing a gap over there. Not a gap to break. I'm seeing a gap in behind the defense there. I'm going to kick into that gap. It's going to roll out. It's going to be a defensive line for them inside the 22. Chances are, they're protecting a lead. They're going to kick it. We put a lot of pressure on the kicker. He gets it wrong. We've got a line on the 22. Bang. We've a set-piece team. We move. So it's those sort of small things where it's easy to look at a Grant Williams, who is a very exciting and such a fun player to watch, and be like, well, he should actually have to play. But there's so much more to the game than just an exciting scrummy that loves to sort of snipe. And I'm a big Grant Williams fan. In fact, I wish the Lions would go through all the money at him and bring him in. But I said, Test match rugby is very different. And this weekend was actually the first time he's played scrum half in a Test scenario. How's it, Zach? Hope you're well. Captain Crunch saying, I hope they're not going to field a team with no recognised kicker against New Zealand. That clearly didn't work last year. Cheslin and Faf kicked pretty well last year, actually. And I think it was a France game when they were all nailing kicks. I'd expect it, to be honest. You're not going to par this weekend, and I don't think Leibach starts. So expect no recognised goalkeeper, to be perfectly honest. So whether it's going to be Cheslin, Faf, or Damien, who knows. Hello, Cammy. Hope you're well. Saying, what did you think of Eddie Jones' excellent post-match interview, Steve? Oh, good old Ken Borland getting under Eddie's skin a bit. Look, I think he knew he was going to get that sort of reaction. It is kind of why you ask those questions. I think we're reading far too much into it from an Eddie reaction. Of course, the guy's going to be pissed off. I mean, you spent the entire week building up your team, hyping up your team, defending your team, saying, no, we're going to have a go, and then you get absolutely taken apart. And then the first thing you have to do after that is go into a press conference and be reminded of everything you said and how, by very sort of smug South African journalists going, I expect you, I reckon you don't want to see you don't want to call them a South Africa B team again. So I quite enjoyed, actually, the smart ass comment. It's exactly the type of comment it was. So Ken knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, he's a seasoned journalist. He knew he was going to get that kind of reaction. He's not going to take it personally. It writes the headlines. I don't think it was that deep. I mean, I think that Eddie Jones, asking for more respect, they always do. I don't think it was disrespectful. I think it was just one of those things. I don't think he handled it brilliantly. I don't think it was as bad as we make it seem. He's always going to be a bit annoyed about that. I mean, it's the same thing as Michael Cheika was asked if he's going to resign when the Wallabies went out of the World Cup last time in the post-match press conference, and he said, can you just have a little bit of can you actually add a human element check? Can you understand how much I'm hurting right now, and I don't want to be talking about my future. I can talk about the game, but a little bit of empathy would go a long way with understanding where I'm at. And I suppose there is a certain amount to that. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a rugby championship game, so it's not that deep. But it does explain why these coaches react how they do. Same with Alan Jones. When he was very emotional after the British and Irish Lions thing. He had a chance of beating South Africa with the British and Irish Lions, and he didn't. And he was emotional, and he said, I don't care if you guys think I'm too emotional, but this is what it means to me. I've just lost the opportunity to lift the trophy, to beat the Springboks, to beat the world champions as the British and Irish Lions captain after coming back from injury. Of course, I'm emotional, and deal with it basically. Xavier saying, thoughts on the 5 scrum-half situation? Only 3 can go. Who you keeping? Who stays? And they say, for me, Faf, Jaden are probably the 1-2 that goes. Probably Kobus will be the third one, unless they do with Grant Williams as a bolter or something different. I don't think Herschel goes. I do think Herschel's playing a lot better, and I'm very happy to see that he is starting to get back to that form that he was. But I think it's too little, too late. So I think it's between Grant Williams and Kobus Reinach for that third spot. If Jaden Hendricks is fit, I'm interested to see if he'll play this weekend. Then I think he does go. But in fact, I'm actually trying to work out if he actually did travel, because he wasn't involved last week due to the death of his father. So I'm just trying to work out if he actually was part of the group that went over. Well, actually, having said that, I think he might not actually be. There we go. People are going over. Yeah, so it actually hasn't gone over. I take it all back. So he won't be involved this weekend. I think he might be involved in Argentina. He is supposedly fit. But yeah, as I said, I think the death of his father last week, so not traveling, or the week before. I think it was last week, the week before. So he won't be involved this weekend. So that's what I said. I think Grant might get an opportunity this weekend. But I would like to see Jaden back. Guys, Jaden's good, eh? Like last year when he played, he looked absolutely at home, and he actually benched Faf. Faf come back and with a bit of a vengeance. But yeah. Where we at here? Cody Aronson or Pimpy will start. Pimpy will start, I think. That's why he's over there. We know the S team come out tomorrow, so 9 o'clock's our reaction show. Cammy's saying, yeah, my Pimps will start. Zakele saying, where's Jaden been? Yeah, I hope that answers that question. Musbar saying, Cody Aronson's far more dangerous than his proven poacher. You can't teach that class. Look, I mean, Pimpy's not got a bad high scoring record at all. But Pimpy will play this weekend. And then I think Kirtley will probably play against France. And France against Argentina. Can be saying, in fact, number one choice for me for 9. I 100% agree. I mean, so I wish we could take bigger squads to the World Cup. Well, it is a big squad. It's a 33-man squad, up from a 31-man squad. So it's actually a much bigger squad than it was a year ago. So yeah, I mean, we do have an extra 2 players we can take. Who was saying, I think the box will be more dangerous with Kirtley Arnson and Colby starting on the wings. Would you rate maybe having Estes on the bench this weekend? You could have Estes on the bench. If we go over the 6-2 split, for example, by virtue of having Damian Williamson, if he does start at 10, which is the rumor, it means that you could have Estes on the bench, you could have a Kirtley Arnson on the bench, you could have Mine Leibach on the bench, you could have any real backline player on the bench, because, you know, having Damian Williamson there means that you've got different options. You probably do need to have a Leibach or a fly-off cover on the bench if he does start. If Leibach starts, for example, and Damien's at 15, for example, and then Video off the bench, then that's fine. But I'm also interested to see if we do go with the 6-2 split this weekend, or if we will go 5-3. I wouldn't be surprised if we go 5-3. But yeah, Grant Williams is not a scrummy. That guy must go and play winger. Technically, as a scrummy, got lots of work to be done. Monsieur Taylor saying, are you happy with the progress the Box making ahead of the Rugby World Cup? I think I am. I think I'm seeing progress, and I think I'm seeing a plan starting to come together. I think it's all about injuries, for example. And I think it's about whether we can peak at the right times. I do, put it this way, at this stage, can I confidently say we can beat any team in the world? Yes. Yes, I think we can beat Ireland. I think we can beat France. I think we can beat New Zealand. We know we can beat New Zealand. We did beat New Zealand last year. Can they beat us? 100%. 100%. So I'm not saying that we are unbeatable, but I know that there's not a team in the world that we can't beat. And that means that as long as you pitch up on the day and you play to your potential, you can beat teams. So if we play against Ireland and they're slightly off, we'll beat them. We play against France, they're slightly off, we beat them. As long as we're obviously on form. But if we play Ireland and France and New Zealand and they're also at their best, I think it's a flip of a coin. And from that perspective, I think that I'm very happy with where we are. Because, let's be honest, going to the last World Cup, I don't think we could have confidently said that. And now I can. They say, okay, Steve, I hear the view on Williams and his kicking, but how's James' recovery going? Because Faf is first choice, ran out more experience, so want us to go choose between Grant, Jaden, and Hirsch. Wonder saying, whatever players the coaches pick, we can rest assured they are good enough, well coached, and capable of beating any team they face. I like the positivity there. Once here saying, I'm very impressed how organized Rusty and Co are with this team and how the whole team are buying into this project. And I think that's a massive part of it, is that belief in what they're doing, the belief in the systems. You know, when you can get told, you are not going to start at the World Cup. You might get one game, but this is your role. You want to be a World Cup winner? This is what you got to do. And I think that they've got an environment where people are very happy to take a backseat if they need to. Now, nobody wants to be a backseat player. Nobody wants to even be on the bench. Even Malcolm Marx was saying, you know, I don't like coming off the bench, but I'll do it, and I'm happy to do it. You know, I'd prefer to start. I would prefer to start. But when they understand the vision and they all buy into the plan, then, you know, it all sort of comes together. Cammy's saying, don't write Aiden Orpey as a key player. Going through a couple of the comments here. Thoughts on Jean-Luc Dupree? I'm seeing any thoughts of him getting game time? I know he started to play a lot as well for sale. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with him this weekend, and I'm keen to see the announcement tomorrow. Eric saying, how essential do we think Billy is? He has played second playmaker so well with less experienced colleagues. I think this weekend showed us that Billy LaRue has to start. In fact, this weekend almost sort of makes you want to put Billy LaRue as the first name on the team sheet. I thought Billy this weekend was absolutely flawless. I can't actually remember a mistake he made. I think of the amount of times he bailed us out, how good his kicking touch was, his composure, and he was working with Caden Moody, he's 20 years old, Kirkley Orenser, he's played less than 10 tests, and Martin Liebach on his first test start. Those were some of the key players around him, and his back three were incredibly inexperienced. And yet, how much did he help them out? How much did he guide them? How good did we look, with them there? So yeah, I mean, Billy for me is so key to the way we play. And yeah, Kevin saying, guys, Rusty knows what he's doing. That's the plan with a plan. Always have a card in his back pocket. I love seeing the Bok change up the game on Saturday. That was lacquer rugby to watch. Mr. Boss saying, let's put Williams on 10, let Colby kick for poles and Liebach on the bench. Second half, bring Liebach on, put Williams on 50 and take Uncle Billy off. Do you think there will be a Chasing the Sun doc sequel this year? Well, I know they're filming. I mean, the same guy that was filming him last time is at all the so they definitely are filming for it. I suppose the question is, do you do a documentary if you don't win a World Cup? We'll find out, won't we? Kirk says, I believe Estevez played himself into the World Cup squad with his brilliant performance against Oz. Yeah, look, I think he was pretty much on the plane. I think that we do need a genuine another option at inside centre. Damien Willems plays at inside centre a lot for the Stormers, but hasn't played that much internationally. So I think Andre Estevez, especially with the fact we've got those extra positions, extra spots in the World Cup squad, I do think he's going to go to the World Cup. I think he was pretty much already going to the World Cup, and I think that probably, as you said, did probably cement it. Tian Thunberg, welcome, says, did you not learn this lesson against Ireland last year? Billy is available. He starts in our first 15 for matches. We absolutely need to win. Anywhere on the success for Nina, but no. So I think at this stage it'll literally only be announced next year. It wouldn't surprise me if Rassi takes the reins over again and brings in another defense coach potentially. Whether it could be like a Norman Laker down the Stormers or Joey Mangala, obviously at the Sharks. I don't know what the plan will be, but I don't think we'll have any announcement. Probably, maybe this year, maybe at the end of the year. I think if we win the World Cup, we could potentially name it this year. If we lose the World Cup, I think we'll only name it next year. But yeah, we're going to start wrapping up. And Kane says, I hope Evan is 100 for next week. I know they try to save him a bit due to his injury. Yeah, I'm interested to see if he is going to start. There, the rumors was that he was going to captain the side actually this weekend. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Ian Foster's comments, and this is what he had to say about next weekend. He said, we've adopted our strategy about bringing the whole squad here. We felt the time together was critical for us. South Africa has had a different strategy, talking about the split squad approach. He said it's always tricky. He's like the old days of the Rugby Championship where we used to go from Argentina, arrive in South Africa on a Saturday. We'll acclimatise. It'll be a bit different, but the challenge is still the same. At the end of the day, we'll play at Mount Smart Stadium and all bets are off. So, yeah, I think he's pretty happy with, he's pretty confident for next weekend. I do think the Boks do have a bit of an edge with that regards because half the Boks who are going to be named in that side tomorrow were watching Argentina take on New Zealand whilst in New Zealand. And all of a sudden, New Zealand have to come back to New Zealand, acclimatise, deal with the jet lag, whilst they'll know that the Boks squad could potentially even get there before them. And half the teams have been already there for a week. So they're already there. They're ready to go. So it's a pretty good tactic. I have done a review on the jersey just on the channel, so you can go check that out. And we're going to wrap up there, people. Thank you very much for jumping in. The squad announcement is tomorrow. Our reaction show is at 9 o'clock. So keep an eye out. And if you want to be the first person to get the team news and see what's going on, then make sure, first of all, you subscribe to the channel. And then turn your notifications on because, as you know, we've got a video up that goes up within 10 minutes of the Bok team coming out that goes through the entire thing. And so if you want to be informed, turn your notifications on and you'll get a little notification say, boom, Steve's got the Bok news and I can take you through it. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to go and try and find some gas for my heater because in case you guys didn't know, it is literally snowing in Johannesburg, which is why I'm pretty much in my air scheme. I mean, I've got layers on layers here, people. I went for a run this morning in snow, in South Africa, in Johannesburg. This is bullshit. I'm not happy about the situation. So I'm now going to go and find every last layer I own, get myself gas for my gas heater, batten down the hatches, and if you don't see me again, it's because I've become a hermit and I've officially become a house person. like a house cat, the one that's don't leave. That could potentially be the plan for this week because it is. I mean, literally earlier when I got back from my run, it was 3 degrees, but it said the real feel was -2, and I can definitely confirm the real feel did feel like -2. Let's see what it's currently at. It's actually going a bit warmer, I think, out there. It's not too bad. It's only sitting at it's 9 degrees. Oh, it's banging. Oh, it's easy out there. It's easy. And it's only going down to it's only going to 0 now today. Easy work. The snow's passed. Listen, people, it's cold up here. Anyway, hope you're keeping warm if you're in South Africa because it's actually cold apparently around the country, especially if you're in Johannesburg and you're fighting out the snow. If you weren't, go and check out my Twitter, Stevie P Sport. I actually posted a photo of Ellis Park under the snow, which is very interesting. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for the live reaction. And we've got an update from Dion Davis on the channel. We'll have the press conference for the announcement tomorrow on the channel as well. We probably won't have any New Zealand press conference, unfortunately. We are working to see if we can try and find that. Then we'll keep you up to date with exactly what's happening over the week. Thank you very much for people watching. See you guys all tomorrow. And keep warm, keep safe, and